Good morning, everyone. This is LadyDragon speaking. It's Monday, January 27th. It's 10:55 a.m. Well, this is our last keynote of CES. There were 44 of them all, and now this is the last one. This one should be very interesting too. But they're all interesting. It's just different subject for different things. It's called revolutionizing luxury. Okay, it's gonna be with Vogue, the coach Jen Phoenix. So that's gonna be very interesting. Yeah, interesting. Bon, on va écouter ça là. C'est about la révolution des luxury. Donc, on va écouter ça. C'est le dernier keynote de CES. Il y en avait 44, je les ai toutes faites. Vraiment intéressant. Vraiment educational. Bon, here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's so great to see you here, and I'm excited to get started. I'm Megan McDowell, and I have been covering fashion and technology and innovation for more than 10 years, and I'm increasingly seeing a big shift in innovation that sees companies working together to develop better solutions. And innovation itself is also increasingly merging sustainability and technology, and that's kind of going to be the focus of our conversation today. This is especially true for materials and business practices that both strengthen businesses and are better for the planet. And one material that has specifically come into focus is the use of leather. So this brings us to Coach. At more than 80 years old, the brand started with leather accessories inspired by baseball gloves, and it's now undergoing a major rejuvenation that looks at becoming a luxury brand that helps Gen Z express themselves. As part of that, they have a sub-brand called Coachtopia, which focuses on circularity and reducing waste. And it's sort of an incubator for new ideas that combine sustainability and technology. We are also joined by Jen Phoenix, which reuses and recycles leather. And its recycled leather material is already used in planes, trains, and buses, so you've probably already even encountered their materials before. These two companies have come together not only through a partnership, but through an investment. And the partnership has now extended beyond testing to the wider brand. So that's what we're gonna talk about. Let's get started. I'd love to welcome Coach CEO Todd Kahn and Elise Weiner, the Chief Marketing Officer at Jen Phoenix.
Hi. Hey. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get right to the core of the question here, Todd. Why is leather core to Coach's business? Why not just create something that gets rid of leather?
Yeah. So thank you. It's great to be here with you. Great to have all of you here. Leather is our heritage. And when you think about sustainability, actually it's one of the most sustainable products in the world. Leather, as we know, is a byproduct of the meat industry. If, in fact, we don't use leather, leather ends up in landfill and it continues to release methane gas and is actually very detrimental to the environment. What I love about leather is that durability, that patina, and Megan mentioned the baseball glove. So in our heritage, 80 years ago, a husband and wife family named Kahn, spelled differently, unfortunately no relation to me, they had this beautiful idea of taking a leather baseball glove, and it inspired them to create small leather goods for men. That's actually, many of you may not know, but Coach really started as a men's company. And that baseball glove and that leather, as we know, over time improves. And what is so rewarding is you walk into vintage stores all over the world and you see beautiful 20, 30-year-old Coach bags that still have that incredible patina and luster because of leather.
So I mentioned the investment. In 2023, Coach participated in an $18 million investment round in Jen Phoenix. And that's really unique for the fashion industry in general. And it was the first time Coach had made a direct investment in a material supplier. So explain to me, why did you invest instead of just partner like so many other brands do?
Yeah, I think, well, one, we were so impressed with what Jen Phoenix was doing. And what we saw is they had an incredible incredibly durable product. That is one of the criteria. What we thought we could add and add value in is the understanding of what makes something luxurious. And we really thought, you know, we wanted to be more involved. Some of the things we're going to talk about shortly is doing this at scale. Sustainability at scale matters. Sustainability with little ideas and pet projects don't. So we really wanted to have real heart in this and real commitment. And I think, so we took it out of just the normal, let's do a one-off collaboration and move on, which, you know, again, is great, but doesn't really move the needle.
Right. Yeah, this was a completely atypical material supplier and brand relationship from the get-go. I think obviously the investment really enabled Tapestry and Coach to have skin in the game.
And you mentioned Tapestry, that's a parent company of Coach for anyone.
Yes, Tapestry is the parent company of Coach that made the direct investment into Gen Phoenix. But from the get-go, we really operated as one team. And I think, you know, first, Coachtopia, which was actually here at CES last year with us, was really designed to be this incubator model within the large Coach brand to kind of get out of the typical construct of the product development cycle for Coach, right? Where we could quickly iterate new technologies, get them to market, test them with consumers, and then leverage those learnings for the larger Coach parent brand. That is exactly what this partnership has been in action. We developed a new-to-the-world recycled leather material in under a year, got it into the marketplace, and then have worked hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with the Coach team to elevate that product to meet the needs of a luxury consumer. We knew how to make a hard-wearing material for the mass transportation seating category. We needed Coach's connection to the consumer and their expertise in leather to really elevate our product. And we're really excited to be showcasing some of that here today.
I know, I'm excited to reveal. We have a few little things in store. For some of us who aren't familiar, we hear when we're talking about recycled leather, like it's hard to even kind of know what that means. Sometimes we hear terms like wet blue leather scraps, hydro entanglement. This is a tech conference, so tell us briefly, what do those terms mean?
Sure. So the first stage in the leather manufacturing process is tanning. And when a leather hide goes through that tanning process, it actually takes on this blue color. And it's wet because it hasn't been dried or finished yet. What people may not know is a lot of waste gets generated at that stage of production. So there may be imperfections in the hide. The hide may need to be a particular thickness for the application. And so there are scraps and shavings that are generated that traditionally go to landfill. At Gen Phoenix, we rescue that waste at the wet blue stage, and we've rescued over 10,000 tons of wet blue waste from landfill since the company's origination. And what we do is we actually break that waste back down to the leather fiber level, and we use the power of high-pressured recycled water to actually re-entangle those leather fibers back together so that they can be regenerated and finished into a recycled leather material. And we do that in our manufacturing facility in the UK, but it's a really unique approach to actually taking waste and giving it multiple lives, which aligns so well with Coach and their entire ethos around finding beauty in waste, which they've done through so many programs at the company.
I think we actually have a video, because that's a lot to take in. I think we have a video that kind of shows, a brief video, if we can roll the video of kind of some of your processes in your facility. those products are beautiful.
Thank
That was really
you.
neat. Great video. Todd, I want to ask you this. You mentioned kind of this at the beginning. As a CEO, how do you bring these ideas out of the innovation stage, the pilot stage? I feel like so often they get kind of stuck in that silo and it takes so many people to contribute to that. So how do you do that?
Yeah, that is so important, because so often you'll have a business development group or an innovation silo, and sometimes really good ideas go there to die. And we see that not just in fashion, I think you see that in a lot of industries. First of all, it does take leadership from the top. And not just the commercial leadership. For a fashion company, our creative director, Stuart Vevers, got really behind it. So he is incredibly enthusiastic, and we both he and I, take this almost personal responsibility to try to address a pretty major problem of waste created in our industry. So what we did is we then found a champion for Coachtopia, and we ring-fenced it completely in and away from the rest of our product development cycle. Because if they had to say, okay, we have line opening in March for a October delivery, if you start playing that game, you start failing or you compromise. So we took it out of the normal product development cycle. We had a champion. We really embraced every level. And again, we had the benefit of Tapestry, our parent company, so we had the supply chain enthusiastic about it. We had our creative team enthusiastic about it, and then of course our commercial teams. Because what I said to them when I tasked June Silverstein, who spoke on the stage last year with you, I said, June, I like 10% ideas. So if Coach is a $5 billion brand, you can see what our aspiration was for Coachtopia. And equally important, we wanted to take it and look at the learnings of Coachtopia to eventually put back into Coach, which I think you're going to see shortly some of that.
Yeah, Coachtopia is so interesting to follow. I bet it's a lot of fun to work on those projects too for the whole team.
Yeah, I mean, they're incredibly enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the challenges of recreating a leather product, because we saw these images. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, there's so many details about leather that we've loved for hundreds of years. What were the challenges and opportunities there to kind of recreate that type of material? Is it hard to achieve? Like, tell us what we're looking at. I don't know. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was, and we talked a little bit about that this was an atypical or unusual collaboration, and I think new to the world material innovation demands new ways of working together. And we really kind of dissolved the walls of our factory and let the Coach team in to stand side by side with our material scientists and product development team and engineers to really understand how do we take a product that for close to 15 years has been really manufactured around performance requirements for the mass transportation seating industry, right? How do we take that and elevate it to have the hand feel, the body, the draping, the appeal of a luxury good? And you know, when I think about innovation, a technology company on their own can get it to a point. There's almost that last mile innovation that takes place once you can collaborate with a brand that can bring that consumer expertise and that leather expertise to the table. And likewise, Coach also led us into their factories, as you saw in Vietnam, where we worked together to make sure that the bags were constructed appropriately, that the material was handled appropriately. And I think if we had just handed something over the fence to Coach, we would never have gotten to a place where we are today, where we're proud of the product that we have on stage for you.
Yeah, and I think what's important here is the criteria we set, and we have 4 absolutely non-negotiable criteria when we develop new articles. First is style. At the end of the day, we're a fashion house.
Yeah.
It has to be stylish. It has to work that magic. The next is impact. We look at if we're developing something that is sustainable, it has to have a sustainable impact to it. You know, it has to be material. The next is, can it perform? You know, our consumer is very discerning, okay? The functionality, the durability, the tensile strength, all of those things have to be non-negotiable. And last, price. There is a myth out there that you can upcharge for sustainable product, okay? Every consumer particularly a young consumer, wants a sustainable product. It's incredibly important to them. They also don't feel they need to, nor should they pay more for it. And in fact, when we launched Coachtopia, we made an absolute definitive business judgment to make sure the price points for Coachtopia came in under the typical Coach bags. So we really could engage this younger consumer into the process. And that is so important. And I think the relationship with Jen Phoenix, the product we created fit all 4 criteria.
Right. Yeah. When Jen Phoenix entered the market 15 years ago, sustainability was not the kind of focus for brands that it is today. So the company really had to compete on performance and on price, right? And offer something to the marketplace that was above and beyond the incumbent solutions. And I think it's because of that that we're at a point where we can hit that style, performance, price, and impact. That is really, when a sustainable tech comes to market, it's really critical to think about hitting all 4 of those pillars if you want to be able to have the kind of scale that Todd talked about, right? Sustainability can only matter if we can actually get to meaningful volume and scale. And no one's going to want to pay more for a product that doesn't perform as well or cost, than the incumbent technology or product. And I think we learned that. Paul Denninger, who just spoke on our last panel, will often remind me, a colleague of mine, about clean tech 1.0, right? And that bubble bursting. And it was because all of these clean technologies, sustainable technologies that came on the marketplace cost more and didn't perform as well. And so I think that was a really critical learning to ensure that we hit all the specifications that Coach set out for us before bringing something to the market.
Okay, so we have this tenet in journalism, show, don't tell. So I would love to show people what we're talking about. Todd, would you like to do the grand reveal about the coasters and what this is?
Yeah, so when you walked in, everybody should have gotten 2 coasters. Oh, do I have them? Oh, I do. Okay, thank you. Okay, so there are 2 beautiful Coach coasters. You're going to be able to take them home. On them is an A and a B. One is made from traditional Coach leather. The other is made from our new co-created material. There is a code being flashed somewhere, hopefully, and we're going to ask you all to vote. And as a business person, I hate not knowing an answer beforehand, so we're taking a lot of risk here, but I think it's going to be fun. So please vote which one you think is the Jen Phoenix recycled leather product.
And does it have a name? Are we allowed to say the name?
Well, that's the next big reveal that you're hearing here for the first time. This new material is called, it's still coming in, New Gen. Okay, so New Gen, you will see it. We will be telling the story to the consumer about what New Gen means.
Can I see the coasters? I actually haven't voted.
Okay, you didn't vote. Okay.
You guys didn't tell me. I literally don't know.
This is great. So,
you always I always want to move it and like smell it. Smell is a hard one, I think. But the texture is amazing. So I'm voting for which one is, I think, the New Gen.
Yes. Which one is New Gen?
I think A. When are we going to reveal? Are we going to reveal, like, how much more time? Let's give
it
like
another
10 more seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. Has everyone voted?
Everybody voted?
Yeah. Oh, it's still coming in.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
Can you see also?
Oh, you know what? Tell us about the internal, while they're still voting, tell us about the internal test.
Even with, we did this at the Coach headquarters, Tapestry headquarters, and in fact, the test came out that, are we showing it now? I can't see.
I think the next slide.
Okay, so are we closing voting? Okay.
Okay,
50,
the test
40.
basically was about the same. Why don't you reveal which is which?
Okay.
Okay, this is the internal test in the office, okay? And this is quote unquote an informed
So B is blue.
A is the
yellow.
traditional Coach leather, and B is the Jen Phoenix recycled leather product.
Okay.
Wow.
So internally at Coach, 61% of those polled actually chose the conventional leather, thinking it was the recycled product.
Okay, so was I right? I can't remember. Was I right or wrong?
You were
I was right. Oh,
You were
yeah.
right.
I literally didn't know.
That was good.
It was
but
incredible.
The point is the fact that it is
No,
such
it was a total
split,
toss-up. Yeah, and we're in Vegas, so it's appropriate.
Exactly.
That was a lot of development and love and care and time to get to the point
That's
where
incredible.
it could be that kind of split, even amongst leather experts at Coach.
And what was interesting, we didn't ask you this follow-up question, but we did ask the follow-up question in our offices. What was your degree of confidence in your choice? And basically, they were guessing.
Totally.
So,
Totally. Well, tell us, you mentioned the sustainability goals and how much that's an important part of the conversation, not just at Coachtopia, but the wider Tapestry group. I should mention Tapestry also owns Stuart Weitzman and Kate Spade, if you're not familiar, so that's the parent company. The company set out to achieve 90% of leather supplies sourced from sustainability certified tanneries by 2025, and 10% of materials using regenerative agriculture or new materials by 2025, such as this new leather. How are those goals going, and what can you share about the status?
well, something really exciting, and we're very proud of the fact is we have overachieved those goals, and we're in the first month of January. So
Nice.
it really takes a lot, and I think it's important. You know, somebody might ask us, well, why aren't you 100% gold and silver tanneries? Part of what we're trying to do is bring people along in the process. Working for Coach is very lucrative, but we have very high standards. So there are a lot of vendors who want to come and work for us. We're trying to raise the industry standards. And so the fact that we've onboarded over 60 tanneries that were not gold or silver status and have moved up into that rankings is incredibly powerful. And I think it helps us do our small part in creating a more sustainable environment.
And gold and silver, that just means the ones that are the most highly rated in terms of sustainability practices?
There's a list of practices,
Okay.
sustainability, not just environmental, but work conditions. There's a number of things that the
Okay.
Leather Working Group set as standards. And what's interesting is the standards aren't stagnant. So to become a tannery that achieves an A rating 10 years ago was very different than it is today. We're constantly raising the bar, so maintaining that. It's a little bit like a Michelin star. You know,
right.
just because you won it one year doesn't necessarily mean you win it the next year.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very important for us to continue to elevate the game.
Elise, how does that compare? I know you work with other fashion brands beyond Coach. How does these goals and this achievement compare to other brands you're seeing?
I think it's unusual because what we're seeing right now is so many brands are backtracking from their ESG commitments or pushing out their dates of meeting those
Interesting.
commitments. And I think what's really incredible about Coach is the fact that they've accomplished these goals, but also the fact that what it shows the industry is it actually can be done. And it's through innovation, it's through partnerships like this, it's through sometimes looking outside your four walls that you're able to actually make meaningful progress towards these goals. And so our kind of mission around circularity really aligned so well with Coach, which is why they're such a critical investor and partner for us.
And you know, there's something we don't talk about a lot, but I think it plays into this. You know, we often talk about ESG goals as important to some investment group, and maybe they fall out of favor, they fall into favor, depending on what the world looks like. But there's another subset of people that it's incredibly important to. When we talk to our 17,000 employees, they care about this. In fact, they're the ones who often come to us and say, you know, why is the packaging so, come up with solutions to reduce the level of packaging but still protect the product. So it is important, and I think when you're a company, and I think this is true for all of you out there, don't just think about one set of stakeholders. There's multiple stakeholders where this really does matter. And it's not just the flavor of the week kind of idea. This matters for people, particularly we hear from our core consumers, which is a young Gen Z and now Gen Alpha. This is table stakes for them.
That's right.
I want to mention other projects from Coachtopia that I've seen because it's not just this one announcement. I actually have a bag And you told me a little bit about the background. It's like this checkered black and white. It's so cute, and it's like woven leather pieces. And there's actually like an NFC chip. You can scan it. If I want to resell it instantly on Poshmark, I can resell it. That's so interesting to me across fashion, technology, and sustainability. So what can you tell us about a few other projects from Coachtopia? I know there's also a project called Reloved. So tell us about what all that is.
So Relove It, in fact, predates Coachtopia. You know, part of what we realize is we need to start developing solutions for real circularity, for really thinking about end of life for a bag. So we started with the Relove. We repair bags. Tens of thousands of bags have been repaired by us over the years. Relove allows us to refurbish bags effectively and bring them back into life, which is incredibly powerful. And, you know, it allows a lot of individualism. So sometimes we take a bag and one of our creative people had this idea of putting bows on it, and literally we couldn't keep them in stock.
So Gen Z.
So it's unbelievable. It's like becomes a TikTok sensation, and then, you know, all of a sudden we're chasing inventory there. So we had Relove. We also took scraps, as you indicated, and what was really powerful, when we launched Coachtopia, we had not just this idea of ring fencing a collection sustainability, but also inviting the community to co-create with us. So we have over, I think today it's about 150 Coachtopians, and they're everything from fashionistas to sustainability people, and they give us input into what we should do. And the chip you talk about was critically important. So you can, just with your phone, understand where your bag was made, what are the materials, you know, and really follow the life of the bag. And when we designed Coachtopia, we designed the end of life at the beginning of life. We took components and hardware and understood how are we going to deconstruct these? Because the hardest thing is, at the end of the day, deconstructing a bag. And so we think that's really interesting. With the last thing recently we did is Alter Ego bag. So one of our most popular bags today is the Brooklyn bag. Hopefully many of you have one, or you should go and get one.
You would recognize it. So,
yeah, it's a really powerful, important bag for us. When we were cutting the Brooklyn bag, there are scraps left over. Instead of just casting them off, throwing them away, we actually created what we call the Alter Ego bag. Taking those scraps and creating another Coachtopia bag and selling it at the same time we sell the Coach bag, the Brooklyn bag. And so again, we're doing that. Now what's really interesting is what we're going to start talking about with New Gen.
The next stage.
And our next stage.
Yeah, so tell us, we carried on bags on stage, which I don't frequently do. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so you see these white totes up here. So the one that Megan is carrying is actually our New Gen product, the product that was made from the wet blue leather waist that we described. What this bag is actually the next generation of that bag. So our goal at Gen Phoenix is to tackle waste at every part of the leather supply chain. And so what we are actually able to do, every leather waist that we described, what this bag is actually the next generation of that bag. So our goal at Gen Phoenix is to tackle waste at every part of the leather supply chain. And so what we are actually able to do is take the waste that's generated from that bag, so the finished Gen Phoenix recycled leather scraps, and actually pull that into our process and regenerate it into new material for this bag. So this is a second life, if you will, a fully circular product, which really represents the next stage on our journey together with Coach and the future of tackling waste across the entire supply chain.
So this became that.
That became this.
That became that. And,
that's right.
And to make that visual, if you remember the video you saw, so you saw the wet blues at the Gen Phoenix facility. Then you saw a video of us cutting leather in our Vietnam facility. Those scraps now became the new bag. And that's what's so interesting. So now, literally, nowhere in the process will we create waste. Eventually, our long-term aspirational goal is to take old bags that are at end of life and put them back into the system.
Same process. And that's what's exciting about the Gen Phoenix technology platform. It's truly a platform that isn't beholden to one waste source. It can take multiple types of waste source and really look at this problem holistically and the waste that's created in leather manufacturing from end to end.
So one thing I want to ask about, Todd, I know you mentioned in the beginning this idea of scale and coming out of the silo. You've started with Coachtopia, but if I'm seeing this correctly, it looks like a Coach Classic product. Is that
Yeah,
true?
this is not a Coachtopia bag. This is
So it's expanded.
we're going to expand, and we're going to, over time, really talk about this new gen material. And again, the consumer's going to have a choice. They're going to be able to buy a beautiful tote in classic Coach leather, and they're going to be able to buy the same tote in our new gen material. And I think that's really exciting. And when you start thinking about future applications, we happen to be I'm wearing our Highline sneaker, okay, which is our #1 sneaker in all gender. But this happens to be made with our new gen material.
So it's not just bags.
No.
Nice.
Check out my loafers. They're also made with the new gen material.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And now I'm not as cool as the guy, some other tech people wearing leather, but this is a one-off, first time ever created new gen leather jacket.
So it's a prototype?
It is a prototype.
Very cool.
So yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, so how's it going? I mentioned the reinvigoration for Gen Z, all customers, but specifically Gen Z, and now you said Gen Alpha. How are they responding? What are you seeing? How is that re-energization going?
Yeah, it's there's a fabulous quote by Pablo Picasso. He said, "It takes a long time to become young," and that's exactly what we're doing at Coach. We've really focused on our consumer, and particularly this younger consumer. They are at the core of everything we do. And I think we started the journey many years ago, but the last 4.5, 5 years we've really accelerated that. And we're able to do that. And I think this is a learning for, for all companies. Thank you. I grew up in Chicago, and I'm a big fan of the Phil Jackson triangle offense. And when I think about that in business, I think there's 3 components. You have to have a strong commercial expertise. That is absolutely critical. In our business, you have to have a very strong creative, and they have to have equal weight. And then the third side is the storytelling marketing. And when you put that triangle together, and if all sides are equal, and in the center is the consumer, and everybody is focused. Everybody understands throughout the organization this idea of shared conscious, that we are going after a younger consumer, and every touch tone we make is connected to them. And again, we don't fire any consumers we have. We welcome everybody in a Coach store, all ages, all genders. But I will tell you, it's very rewarding for me as the CEO the last couple years to hear it's not just my mom's bag. In fact, what we're hearing more and more and more is young people in their teens are going into their mother's closet to actually find the Coach bag, and it's cool again. And it's funny.
Is it on TikTok, the mother's bag?
Oh, yeah, it's incredible. And in fact, today we were visiting one of our stores, and I was talking to one of the store managers, and she's lovely, and she's been with us for 19 years, and she has 2 daughters in their late teens. And for a few years back, they didn't really want a Coach bag, Now they're like, "Mom, when can we get the new bag?" And when you hear those stories, you realize you're onto something quite strong.
Yeah, that's impressive. Well done. Well, I know you've shared many teasers and highlights about what's coming up next. So I don't know if there's anything left to share about what's next, but if you could share what's next on your roadmap, do you see this material expanding? I know you're wearing a prototype. Do you see this expanding to other products, maybe other brands in the group? What are both of you kind of looking at for your holy grail pie in the sky in the future?
Yeah, I think, and Todd will say this better than I can, Coach is still a legacy leather brand, and leather, we love leather, right? This isn't an anti-leather discussion here. There are so many great sustainable attributes of leather. What we're trying to do through this collaboration is actually use more of what we have, right? So make the most use of the hide possible, and that's why we really see this as being complementary to the leather products that Coach creates. And what's actually was interesting through the Coachtopia collaboration is that we learned that consumers liked that the recycled product was different. Not trying to be full grain leather, there are unique attributes of the product. It's not the same thing, and let's celebrate that innovation. Let's celebrate those differences. Luxury doesn't have to be one thing, it can be many things. And I think also just Todd's point about sustainability really only happening at scale, that it's really incredible the fact that this Coachtopia collaboration has now been passed over into the Coach parent brand that is now adopting this new material into all of these Coach classic styles. Typically in material innovation, we only see pilots or a capsule collection or a few units that might make a splash, but really don't make meaningful headway towards reaching ESG commitments or making a dent in climate change. This kind of volume that we're talking about, actually moving into the parent Coach brand, this is real meaningful progress. And so we're really excited about what's next through this partnership. And the fact we were here last year presenting a new technology with Coachtopia, and now we're back a year later with the new gen material is a real testament to the commitment around that.
And you know, it's interesting, two observations. One, we're calling it new gen. We're not calling it new gen leather, just to be clear. It is new gen. We're going to celebrate the attributes of this material. Again, that's important because we're not trying to greenwash. We're trying to be very clear on what it is and celebrate that and storytell around that. What I was so impressed when I went and toured Jen Phoenix's facility with John, the CEO, as you saw us walking around the facility, I was just awestruck. And I do see over time their technology being able to be applied to other fabrications. You know, I mean, it's you know, I'm not being
Next year,
for
no
it,
pressure.
but, you know, but there might be opportunities to take other major fabrications and apply the same technology. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's a platform. That's why we made the investment at Tapestry. I think over time our sister brands couldn't benefit from that. But also, you know, in future years, obviously we want to have a head start and a little bit of competitive advantage. But I'm very excited to open this technology to other people and really create an industry standard here to try to tackle some of these problems. You know, in your world, it's open sourcing. We're not quite ready to open source, but we are ready to eventually get there and really help deal with the incredible problem in our society.
That's really impressive. I can't wait to that moment. Thank you for sharing all that.
Thank you.
And speaking of sharing the love, I think we have a QR code. Do you want to tee that up about sharing with our guests?
But wait, there's more. So you can actually, through this QR code, you can actually enter in your information and be entered in to win one of these beautiful new gen totes. So please provide your information and we'll be in touch, and we'll mail some lucky winners some yet to be released handbags, which also will tell a little bit inside on our story tag, a little bit of the story of how these were bags that were launched at CES.
Very cool.
So you will have a very unique, I think we're 5 of them or so, I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's right.
Is that a consumer electronic? Because there's a scannable. Can we call it a consumer electronic?
That's right.
I think it's analog. It's real old school,
very old
but it'll be print, you know, and so I think you'll enjoy having
Little
it.
piece of history.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This has been very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Yeah, another very interesting keynote. Well, we're done with the keynote, so we're done for today. So I'll come back tomorrow with other things to talk about. I'll do a resume of that, but we'll talk to you about other things. Actually, I'll talk to you about Samsung tomorrow. And other things that I want to talk about. I'm waiting to do all the keynotes. Now I know exactly which company I want to talk to. And we are all on the cutting edge of knowledge now. Thank you for joining me. Today's 44 that I did. And have a nice day. It's snowing here. I have to go remove the snow. So I hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you tomorrow about other things. Bonjour tout le monde. Bon, on a fini avec les keynotes aujourd'hui, là. Et demain, on va parler de Samsung et d'autres affaires. Là, il neige ici, il faut que j'ai enlevé la neige. Fait que je vous parle plus tard. Bonne journée. Have a nice day. Bye bye.